Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we're going to finish up, hopefully, making this new cross-slide nut for a LeBlond lathe. I had a viewer and local guy actually drop this by the shop, and the threads are worn out on the inside of this. This is for the nut for the cross-slide on his lathe, and he's working on restoring it. We had a new blank cast out of bronze out at Windy Hill Foundry, just like the original. Made a pattern in Fusion 360, drew it up. We 3D printed the patterns and had this cast. And I've already started the machining process. We've already got this front piece completely machined. What's left today is we need to drill the hole through here and thread that with a 1.125" diameter 5-pitch left-hand thread Acme thread, and we're going to do it over on the lathe, single point threading, to get that put in there. Let's get over there, get this thing set up, and get this project knocked out. So first things first, I need to find the center that we want to be drilled through here. Now this is obviously in the center of this piece, and pretty much got the same amount of clearance up at the top as it does on the sides. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to come in here. I'm going to measure how wide this is, and it's 1.5 inches. Actually a little over that, but it's a little bit oversized, but I'm just going to go with 1.5 inches. What I'm going to do is 1/2 inch is 1.75 inches. So I'm going to dial that in on my calipers. I just put a little bit of a Sharpie pen on here, and I'm just going to kind of scratch a line here, and I'm going to do the same thing from the other side. And yeah, there was about 50 thousandths difference, so I got a little gap there in the middle, but I can visualize the center of that, and it's going to actually be right on that parting line. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the top up here. We're just going to scribe a line in there, and now I've got where the center actually is on that. I'm going to just take a center punch and punch a little hole right there that I can then use when I'm setting this up over on the lathe to get that in the center. So let me go put a little center punch hole in there, and we'll be back and we'll get this thing set up in the forge off chuck. All right, now I'm over on the Monarch lathe, and what we're going to do is basically put this nut up in here like such, and I want to get it where the center is right there on that dot. We're going to be holding this a little bit irregular shaped, but this will work just fine. This is the nice thing about a forge off chuck, is that you can adjust this stuff in and out. So I'm going to move this one down a little bit. We'll come in on the back side, move that in some. Needs to come some more here. So now I've got my live center on the lathe, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that to kind of center it up on that actual hole there. So went a little bit farther than I needed to, so we need to move it back this way. I'll just kind of move it over. Still need a little bit more in that direction. A little bit more. We're getting real close. All right, I think that's pretty much where we need to be in that direction. Now I'm going to move it up this way and look down on it. We're actually centered up pretty good in that direction, so I'm going to tighten these jaws up on the sides. And that's pretty darn good right there. I think we're going to call that good enough. Reality is this doesn't have to be just absolutely perfect. It just needs to be really close. So I think we're going to be good enough. But that's going to allow me to drill a hole all the way through this and keep us on center. And I just want to kind of eyeball things, make sure everything looks square in here, and I think we're in good shape. All right, let's go ahead and get ready to drill this thing out. All right, we're going to start by putting a center drill in there and getting our center established. our first hole. We're just going to come in here with a long drill bit. We're just going to get a hole established all the way through this part. All right, we are going to a final diameter of this hole of 0.930 according to the calculations I've worked out based on Machinery's handbook. I'm going to drill this out to 59/64, which is 0.921, which will be about 9 thousandths under size, and then we'll bore it out to the final size. So I've got this drill bit in here. I did slow my lathe down just a little bit. We'll just go ahead and get this drilled out. All right, we're through. I want to see exactly where we ended up here, so I got a bore micrometer, and this was 920, about 923 and a half. And that drill bit was supposed to be 0.921, 0.8. So we're about 2 thousandths over the drill bit, but that's fine. We're still undersized. I'm going to get a boring bar set up here, and we're going to bore out that last little bit to get it to size. I believe this boring bar will be just fine. Let's see, I'm just using the old casting here as a guide. It's almost right on the length. I need a little bit extra length to make sure I clear in there in the bottom. So we're going to extend this out just a little bit. Loosen this boring bar up. Let's see where we're at now. Yeah, we got a little bit extra depth in there. On these boring bars, you want to get them, they're not sticking out any more than they have to, because you always get a little flex in them. But you want to get it as tight as you can, but long enough. And I think we're set there now. So I'm going to come in here and very carefully touch off. I just want to take a very light pass down through there. We don't have a whole lot to take out. We're about 925.8. Still need about 5 more thou to take out of there, but I'm going to sneak up on it again. So all right, we're right on the money right there. 930 thousandths. All right, let's get set up for threading. All right, let's talk about our setup here. We're going to be single point threading. Again, this is 1 1/8" diameter, outside diameter, what we'll end up at. We bored this to the inside diameter of that thread, which was 0.930 inches, which gives us a little bit of clearance down in the root. Because these are left-hand threads, I will be turning the chuck in reverse. So it's going to be coming against me. We're actually going to be cutting on the back side of my cutter. This is a left-hand threading tool. So normally for right-hand threads, we're cutting on the front side. We're turning the opposite direction and we're feeding in. Now we're turning in reverse, cutting on the back side, and we're still going to be feeding in. And I've got my thing set up here so that when we engage this, we'll be doing 5 threads per inch. and that's going to be the speed we'll be going in. Now, these are Acme threads. Now, normal thread that we normally do is a 60-degree point on it. With Acme threads, you got a 30-degree side, 30-degree included angle, and it's flat across the top, as you can see on the insert there. So we have our compound set to that half of that, 15 degrees. So normally for a normal thread, we'd set our compound to 30 degrees or 29.5 degrees if you read the old books. We're just a little under 15 degrees here, which is really kind of where you want to be. The idea here is that when we feed in, what you're feeding in at the angle of the back side of that tooth, so that it's not cutting on the back side, it's only cutting on the front side and then the bottom. I've also got an indicator set up here on my compound, and that is to help me kind of keep track. Once we kind of touch off in that bottom, I'm going to set this to 0. I know that my depth of cut needs to be 100 thousandths, or right around 100 thousandths. We'll be cutting it to actually fit the lead screw that we've got to go into this, but this will allow me to kind of keep track of where I'm at. Why not use the dial? Because we're feeding at an angle, so because that's the hypotenuse of a right triangle, if you read off the dial, if I dial in 1,000th down here, it's not going to quite be 1,000th on this dial because it's not going straight in. I want to measure 100 thousandths straight in, not 100 thousandths along that hypotenuse of that angle. So this will kind of give me something to go off of. I think we are ready to go, so I'm going to start by coming in here, and I just want to put a little lead-in angle on the edge there. I like to do that. I think it kind of helps those threads kind of get started. You don't have as quite of a thick of a edge there when you do it this way. So that will get us a lead-in angle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and just touch off on where it's barely touching in the bottom, and it's right there. That's going to be my 0. I'm going to 0 out my dial indicator, and yeah, we're going to feed in about 5 thousandths on the dial here. Notice I fed in 5 thousandths here. We're about almost 4 thousandths on the dial here. I'm going to watch my thread gauge down here, my thread dial. I'm going to wait for a number to come around. Because we're cutting an odd number of threads, I either need to use even numbers or odd numbers on here. I can use any even number or any odd number on my my thread dial down here. So we're going to use even numbers. So let me wait on one of those to come around. We're going to let this go all the way in, and then we'll let it actually clear out of the back, and we'll stop. So here we go. All right, we're going to stop. I'm going to back my cutter out. I can see where my 0 is on the dial there, so I know that we got clearance. We'll come all the way out. I'm going to go back to where I was. We're going to feed in about another 5 thou, and it's just rinse and repeat. We're going to do this over and over until we've made 100 thousandths total depth on our cut. Now I'm going to use a little bit of cutting fluid. I'm actually using some Tap Magic on this. This is just a cutting fluid that will help with the surface finish on that. And again, I'm going to wait for my even number to come around down here on my dial. And here we go for second pass. All right, back out. Go back to 0. And make another pass. I'm going to put a little more Tap Magic down in there. Go back to my 0. We'll dial in another 5 thou. Wait for a number to come around. And we will engage.
dialed in about 5 thousandths on the dial, which again on the dial indicator is about 4 thousandths per pass here. I don't want to get too crazy with my depth of cut. I'm going to take my time, and we're just going to get it out a little bit out. Now we're on about 20 thousandths total depth on the dial indicator. So we're just kind of working our way down. Back to 0. Dial in another 5. Wait for a number to come around. In single point threading on the lathe, you've got everything timed so that I'm starting that cut in the same place every time. And I'm using a thread dial over here on the side of the lathe that kind of helps keep it in time and know when I need to engage the half nuts to be timed up properly. If you're interested in single point threading, I've got several videos where I go into more depth on exactly how to set up to do it and do it. I know most of you guys have probably seen this before, so I'm not going to go into all that detail on this video, but I do have other videos that go into more detail on that if you want to search those out. All right, we're at about 75 thousandths on our total depth. And again, we're going to 100 thousandths, so I got about 25 more thou to go. We're 3/4 of the way there. So guys, in complete transparency, I did have to go back and make a couple of more passes to get a good clearance in here, but I think we are there. This lead screw is fitting very nicely, going up on there, and not any real in and out backlash in it at all. So I'm happy with how that has turned out. I'm going to turn this in, but I think we are pretty much got this part knocked out. I think we're all the way in. Yeah, there's no backlash in there at all. So that's a perfect fit. I like it. All right, I think we're done. Just taking another look at it here. That, I mean, that thing is just as slick as can be. Fits right up on there, and virtually no backlash in it at all. I mean, maybe a couple of thou, but I mean, that is a nice, nice fit. Very happy with how that turned out, and that ought to do him a good job. We'll put our nut back on there. I think it's ready. Oh, there's one other thing I want to do. Let me take this back off, and we'll do that real quick. So the original nut here did have a part number stamped on it. So we're going to stamp it on there. I don't have a stamp that exact same size, but we'll use these 1/8 inch stamps. It'll get the job done. It's ND40A15. So if I'm in, just put it about right here. In. D. Four. 0. A. One. 5. There we go. And we got a part number on there, ND40A15. This part is finished. And just like that, we got this job done. So there's our new nut. Get the old one back to him. I'll give my customer a call. He's local, so he can swing by probably this evening or sometime and pick it up. And he'll be back in business and hopefully can get that LeBlond lathe back up and running. Guys, with that, that's going to be a wrap as always. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments are always greatly appreciated. They really help feed the algorithms over on YouTube and help people find and discover my channel. As always, a big, huge thank you to the guys that support the channel through subscribing as well as through financial support through Patreon and PayPal. Could not do everything we do without your help and assistance. It really helps. It enables me to be able to take the time to shoot these videos and share them with you guys and see what's going on in the shop. Hope you enjoyed this little project. And with that, guys, we will catch you on the next video. Again, thanks for watching.